let's rock it.
All right, welcome to the X-Foils podcast. I'm Dylan, your host.
Let's go.
And I got my unofficial co-host, Walt.
Is there a point where this becomes official, or is it?
No,
I will permanently be the unofficial.
Permanently unofficial.
Permanent,
I mean,
unofficial.
It was a gamble if you were going to make it today or not. Let's be real.
That's why I like the unofficial title. It keeps the pressure low.
So
everybody's excited. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not excited when I show up, but at least I'm here.
Yeah.
And it means they have to listen to you less, which helps everybody.
It's true. I don't really have much good things to say. I'm glad you're here, Walt. We're both super frothy on the Parawing, and I wish you were here in the studio, but, you know.
I know. I got stuck, but it's okay. I'll be back on island soon.
But now that we've got this whole internet thing, you know, it's great.
Well, it's going to be great for summer. I'm going to go back to the gorge again, and it'll be nice to be out there. Hopefully we'll get you out there this season for a little bit, besides AWSI. I know you'll be out there for that. Yeah. But what Parawing are we riding? That is the question. That is the big question. Well, what is the Parawing of choice for the summer? And I think Greg is going to enlighten us.
We've got 3 choices, and Greg's got all 3 of them. So
I mean, again, I thought we were going to get 2 choices, and that was going to be hard enough. And then now we have a 3rd choice. Yeah, I'm very confused right now. I hope that we're going to get to the bottom of this.
Yeah. So,
either that or Greg's not showing up. So we'll see what happens.
Greg will show up.
He's like, gotcha.
So we got Greg from BRM coming on because, I mean, what a legend. It's going to be epic to talk to him about the Parawings, the BRM, the Parawing V2 that he's launched, V3 and V4, and get to the bottom.
V2, V3, V4.
And get to the bottom of it. And I sat down with him before when he first launched the Parawing, and it wasn't the first Parawing to market. I mean, for me it was. Like, that's where it really resonated when I saw... you know, the Malika go up and them sailing around and packing it up and doing downwinders and shredding waves. And I was like, this is definitely going to be a thing. And we still can't remember the name of the original. What was that?
2 handles. I bought one. I literally
Wing.
Bought one. Pocket Wing. The Pocket Wing. Thank you.
Was it the Pocket
There
Wing?
we go. It was Pocket Wing. I just kept wanting to say Pocket Rocket.
Yeah. I think
which is the ozone, which that thing, yeah.
I think they did that on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
But that thing was cool. Anyways, I feel like we gotta get Greg on. We're gonna wear out all our good material.
Oh, we got material for days, Walt. Let's be real.
But we gotta froth about like your story of like chasing down the Parawing, right? Like you're gonna tell that story again. You're gonna have to. You told it 25 times, so you gotta tell it one more time.
I'm not gonna tell it again. No. Everyone's heard it enough. Greg's heard it.
Yeah.
You've heard it. Everyone's heard it. I was like, where's Greg?
No, but it's.
Where's Greg?
It's true. He blew our minds, right? Like seeing the Parawing for the first time, fully inflated and looking like something you could actually sail, and then getting your hands on it and having those first few runs. I mean, that was just one of the most mind-blowing foiling experiences I've had, or really sports experiences I've had. Was like the first time it clicked, and I had a great, I got it's like my second day using it. Rufus is nuking. Like blowing 35 to 40, and I'm out there just lit out of my mind on the 4 meter, get up on foil and then send it. And it was just like, man, otherworldly, right? So I'm just so excited for having some new tools for this summer and seeing what we can do. I mean, being able to sail them now and really build some skills, it's gonna be great. Yeah,
you're in for a really cool summer. I mean,
I think we all are. I think foiling is, everybody is. I mean, look at how much has changed the way we downwind. Just this short season of having them. I mean, we didn't have the best downwind season this winter, right? No. But even with the kind of great surf season, but just not the best wind, and the amount of days we had where we were able to use the Parawing, I mean, it totally changed the way you attack these downwind runs and kind of like took pressure off. I mean, obviously we're all better too, so that helps. But
somebody, Mickey and the boys said, "Oh, we're going to El Perro today to paddle." I'm like,
nah,
I don't have a paddle.
I believe the text said, I don't have a paddle. I think the text said paddled 18 strokes, now drinking beer.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah.
Yep.
No. So I got Walt here. He's typically my co-host and a Parawing frother as well. And he was in Maui, and he's been in, the gorge, and spends time in Puerto Rico with us. So thought it'd be a good idea to get him on here. If you've seen the show, then you've seen Walt.
Awesome.
What's up, Greg?
Yeah, great to meet you, Walt.
Yeah, good to finally meet you face to face. I know we've emailed a handful of times over this last year with all the Parawings, but glad to have you back on the show.
Awesome. Where's home base for you?
Puerto Rico.
Okay, cool. Nice.
Yep. Yep, just down there with the crew all winter. So, but heading west for the summer. So it'll be good to be back in the gorge.
Is that the next stop?
Yep,
And when do you head over?
packing up the dogs and all the gear and driving out west on the 10th.
Okay. Wow, that's early season. It's gonna be cold.
Yeah. It's gonna be cold. Yeah, we rented a place for the 15th, so we're gonna cruise out and kind of get settled. And I've been hot all winter, so I'm fine putting a wetsuit on and getting cold for a month.
Okay, cool.
I mean, I went there. I started the season in June last year, and definitely in June we saw more of those east days because you're getting that really big temperature differential between the desert. So yeah, I think in the shoulder months it's a little less consistent, but I don't know if you've seen that they've had a great run of like 40+ mile an hour winds. So they've been having great conditions. Y'all have too. I saw it's been cranking.
Yeah.
Maui.
Yeah. Right now on Maui, we've got, well, at least on the North Shore, it's probably 15 to 20 from a Kona direction, straight offshore, which is rideable if there's good swell. It can be epic. It's pretty weird riding with some consequence. Like can be tough to get back, but there isn't any groundswell. And so there's no waves to ride. It's not downwind conditions. Kihei's not working. So I'm not sure. You'd probably be resting here today.
Okay, finally. So just don't be there in the summer for the cranking trade winds.
Right.
And then you never get a rest day.
No rest.
Yeah. No, it's exactly when we do want to be there. So anyways. Well, Dylan, you wanna kick this thing off? You ready? You feel warmed up?
I mean, we're already into it.
Oh, we're live.
I mean, thanks, Greg, for coming on again. When you launched the Parawing, like first off the Maliko, and we saw it in Maui, I was frantic trying to get my hands on one on the last day in Maui. And I think most people know that story now because I tell it over and over again. And I mean, it hasn't even been a year, and we are completely frothed on the Parawing. So it's super, super good to sit down with you really early on. And I only had 30 minutes with you. It was at the AWSI event. I'm already kind of crazy in the head with everybody and all the meetings and stuff. And we sat down. I was super fortunate to get some of your time and got some, couple words out of you, which is great. And then now you launch a V2, but you're launching 3 models. I'm like, Greg did it again.
Yeah, selfishly, we just had to put this podcast together so I know which one to order when we get done.
That's exactly it. This is just like, it's like a private conference call.
Yeah, I mean, this is really just a consulting call. He's gonna get our bill, or he's gonna send us the bill when we're done, right?
That's hilarious. Yeah, sitting down with you at the show, that was a trip shortly after when we went to the gorge, immediately following the digital launch of the product, which was crazy. That was without a doubt. I couldn't imagine a better way of having introduced the product initially, because I would have just chilled on Maui. But my wife was like, "No, let's go." And I'm like, "What? We've got this thing. There's going to be questions. There's going to be emails to answer. We can't just like jump on an airplane to go to the gorge." But amazing we did, because the hatchery was like just welcomed us with a big hug with both arms, and like that got the whole thing off to such a positive vibe experience. So to come back to the gorge then so shortly after that, sit down with you. I don't think I had done a podcast ever, maybe, and so I was like so crazy uncomfortable to sit down with you. Oh, really? That was a first?
Well, no, I had done a couple, but I mean,
okay.
I'm just doing this for fun, right? I don't know what I'm doing. I have no plans here either, right? It's just hopefully something good comes out of it. We're all just excited, about the sport, and we're all good people. So hopefully we have interesting conversations. That's all I hope out of it, right? So
fun.
I didn't know what I was doing, so you did great.
Yeah. And so you're like, 3 models. Did you not see that coming? Was that not the obvious next step?
You know what? I definitely saw that there were going to be 2 models. I thought there were going to be 2, and I was like, he's going to be ambitious here. He's going to launch 2 models because I feel like he knows there's going to be there's differences in the market. There's different riders, and I think he's going to come out with 2. And then when I saw 3, I was like, oh, damn, let me get on the site and figure out what I've got to order. So
Well, because so we've been riding these Parawings for a year now, off and on, and we were just talking before you got on. We haven't had the best wind season this year in Puerto Rico. Surf's been great, but it's been intermittent, probably not as many Parawing runs as we thought. But we've definitely noticed, there's two schools of use, right? There's the getting you on foil, packing down, and sending your downwind. Maybe you're running out on a beam. And then there's the more performance-oriented, more high-aspect wing that makes sense for upwinding, for like the surf sessions and stuff. And it makes sense that the products are going to spread in those two directions because they're different designs, right? Low aspect versus high aspect and whatever. So yeah, the third one kind of just threw us for a loop. And we're like, well, now we got this middle option. So I feel like the three bears, like, which is the right one for me,
So that touches on my follow-up question was going to be, what are the two? So if I'm hearing you right, the two are like the downwind only or the upwind downwind. Mm-hmm. That's what you had identified before.
Ish.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, and that's obvious. Like for the downwind specific riders, I think that was most heavily informed by a trip to Baja and seeing like people flew it. Like they jumped off the beach, took a couple paddles, threw it up, and had it up for seconds, like not even a minute, because the bumps weren't that started not that far off the beach. So they were straight into something, putting it away. And some of the crew, different riders, different downwind experiences, but some of the crew would put it away and it wouldn't see light again for the full run. And I'm like, oh, wow. Like they have zero interest of this flying thing. How does it perform? How does it turn? No. Like downwind only. If to make something that serves them best was super apparent. And I could go on and on about where the product work went from there and ended up. The upwind, downwind, obvious one as well.
Well, please do.
Yeah. Well, so on that, you'll have to circle me back to the other disciplines, but to me, I was like, forget upwind, forget steering, just make something that is a pure pull, simple, as small as possible. It went in that direction, but it's hard to even test something like that because it's like, I can't even get back to where I started. So if you're testing it on a run, that's a big commitment for a single prototype, a single tuning, this and that. So even just in my own experience of like, what do I even do with this thing? It's certainly not what I want to ride. It's not versatile enough. And how many people want that only? I mean, would somebody want to own, I've got my downwind quiver and I've got my surf riding quiver, or if I need to grind up wind, do you want multiple models of Parawing? Not too many people, probably.
I think we're saying I would.
Yeah.
I mean, I already got them. I already have the, we're all chasing that because I think if there is something that works more specifically, I think we're definitely interested as riders because there are different applications and, the challenges of a higher aspect wing and longer lines that sail better on a downwind pack away, especially somewhere like the gorge where you're just, like you said, you're paddling out a few strokes and then you're up and out, I don't know. I don't know where the line is, right? Like it's like foils too. You can go to a certain place with low aspect and you can go to a certain place with high aspect and, what's the sweet spot?
Yeah. Yeah. So where the Maliko 2 ended up is actually quite specialized in that it's not even for like multiple deploys and this and that. The lines are longer to squeak out every bit of power available at the trade-off of having an immediate deploy and some power if you didn't connect the bumps or that. It went all the way to no. Like if that, because that's where I'm at in terms of a limited skill set for downwinding. I ride the cutoff for sure because I'm going to bring it back out. I'm not going to have a single dry run. Where the Maliko 2.
So that's the Maliko 2. It's very downwind specific.
And even single stow downwind specific.
So what were the shifts in design from the Maliko 1 that you did to the Maliko 2 to make it that way, I guess? And then what is it about this design that you feel makes it so single stow?
There are several things I could touch on, but the easiest to identify is the line length going longer. So it's lower aspect. So it's going to create a little more lift at get up and go, not trimming along, trying to pinch up wind, other considerations. So it's got an aspect ratio and a line length that's geared for power. And it's got a lesser panel count for fewer lines, just because you're not after ultimate stability for jamming along and, all those considerations, just to focus on pack size, minimizing, all that stuff that, if you're only using to get up and go and then you're just a downwind rider. Yeah, for that.
That's cool. I was trying to read all of the different models and pick one for myself, and it took me 2 days. And you know what? I have to say something that, I mean, we've been on this Parawing journey. I've tried to fly as many as possible, and everyone just throws out their marketing and says, here you go. And then I can't get my hands on it for months. Like, they're just not available. I am running out of patience. So it's super stoked that when you launch something, thank you, Greg, that I can click pay and I can, see that the tracking number, and I can see that it's actually on the way in a day or two, versus, seeing all this marketing and seeing how cool it's going to be or what it's for, and then waiting, 4 months. I just feel like everybody's been trying to play catch up, right? And they see what's happening to the market. So, I mean, good on you for, doing all of this development and having giving this out to us and then actually having it available so mine arrives tomorrow. So
you got
and
one?
That was the best part of the original launch too.
Yeah, I ordered Kanaha.
Wow.
Is that what
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Appreciate it.
Yeah. I got a 4.7 is what I landed on.
Hey, I'm going to order one too. Okay, I just wanted to get through the interview first, figure out which one I need.
Killer.
I mean, yeah, we've got a couple people here that are going to order some, so we're going to mix it up. Mickey got the Ka, and I got the Kana. It's the Kanaha, right? Am I saying that right? So we're going to get a couple models and see what's best. But when I was reading it, I was like, I really love sailing. I come from a kiting background. I like winging, and I primarily use the Parawing for downwinding, but I like that I can use my skill set of flying a wing and sailing around when I want to. And I like performance, and I have no problem with packing it down. I don't care how many battens it has or how big it is or if it's fluffy or whatever. I just want to I want to feel performance when I'm riding, and I really like that sailing aspect of the Parawing. It's, it caught me by surprise when I started using different Parawings and really trying to figure out which one I wanted, is that it's just so much fun to sail. Like, I haven't been winging. I don't want to wing anymore. I just want to use my Parawing. And that was, I mean, we haven't had a lot of days, and the wind hasn't been great here, and I'm busy. So I wish I had more sessions, but like everybody, right? Everyone wish they had more sessions, but yeah, that's all I want to do is Parawing. So I was super stoked to see, and the description, and I felt like that's the one that I wanted to pick for my riding style.
Cool. Yeah, thank you. I'm the same, probably, that I started windsurfing as a kid on a lake, and like the interface with the wind and enjoying the sailing side of things is still an important thing to me. Yeah, like we mentioned earlier, the trade show. I don't know if it was the very year before or 2 years before. And stop me if I already mentioned this to you, but like, show up at the AWSI, it's a wind sports trade show, and there's kites and wings and stuff lined up on the beach, but all the excitement was for paddling. And I'm like, this is crazy. I'm out of, or foil drives, or, not wind toys. And I'm like, we're at the wind trade show, and it's not where people's heart, the really passionate people have passions elsewhere. So I feel, for me, I feel like hopefully the Parawing can cross that barrier, that we're connecting to these things we're passionate about, but we're still enjoying the wind. For me, it's the surf side of things. The Parawing for me, even from the very beginning, although it was adopted by the downwind crew, like when I first saw, like Sam here on Maui with his pocket wing thing, when I first saw that and saw him put it away, I was like, oh my gosh. I was out there playing around with, is he going to throw it out and shoot back to the peak? And he didn't. I was like, oh, I guess it doesn't do that. And it fell off my radar screen, because that's where my head was, always at. And even later, when development was trending in the direction of what became the original Maliko launched last year, I was just working on wings. I wasn't working on a stowable thing. Anyway, all the worlds just fell into line. I was like, wait, I'm working on a better wing and making it inflatable. Like, I guess F1 has come out with a inflated leading edge one. Now that's sort of where, not even where it really started. It started for me just flying an inflatable wing on a harness line. And then it went to, oh, this is interesting. And I had the whole kite idea going on. So I made basically a crazy short line kite, sort of like that F1, but it just wasn't steering responsive. Like flying an inflatable wing on a harness line worked better than my early kite wings, if you will, if that's what we would have called it back then. Anywho, it landing on a single skin paraglider like design was just me stumbling through the development process and letting what each prototype, wherever it led, where do we go from here? How do we make this thing work? And then, oh, wait, now it is collapsible. That changes everything. So it's been cool. And so that almost speaks to where were we last August in terms of everything that's happened since. Back then I thought, oh, this is a pretty mature design category. This is about as far as we're going to go with it. I was completely wrong on, no. The way we're actually riding these, the way we're actually piloting, the actual power delivery we want to really use this thing, that's taken things in a completely different direction, along with seeing how different riders ride in them completely. But all of us, no matter what riding discipline, actually how you want it to perform is so different than what I thought back then. So like the biggest thing to there, line lengths and this and that, but this biggest single thing is the yoke and how it controls when your angle of attack, piloting input in the bars, and how that changes the wing's angle of attacks, the profiles, and most importantly, how much pull you are or aren't getting and when in your bar. And so it's an aid to stability, which is an important step forward, but it allows the piloting on the bar to just have a huge sweet spot. Like going back to the originals, if you've got it all stashed away and you're going to pull it out, if you're not holding it in the right place, you're too far forward, you throw it up and it sheets out, and there's all kinds of instability. Now it's just a way bigger sweet spot. The thing will kind of fly in a much bigger range of like where you grab the bar and what you do with the bar.
Is it like, can you put two hands on it? Is it that big, the bar? Because it looks really small.
Yeah. Two hands fit. My front hand straddles the A lines. And so you're better centered on that balance of pull. And along with the yoke, like when you sheet in, there's more backline tension now, so it's more centered between both hands. But when you sheet out, the B lines come in line with the A lines, and so there's more pull on the front of the bar. So we added some length in the front. Even though it's shorter, you're actually more balanced on the bar, both when you're sheeted out and you've got more backline tension when you're sheeted in, even though it's so much shorter. So it's...
So what's a yoke? Is it a pulley or no?
There's no pulley, and I don't even know if yoke's the right word. It's just what occurred to me. I'm like, what am I going to call this thing? But the B lines, instead of being connected to the bar, they're connected on two lines bridging to the front and back. And
yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
It's just two strings, so it's by definition crazy simple. But what happens when you move the bar to different angles of attack, and the travel of that is the magic. That like when you sheet out, it moves forward, but only so far until it's lining up with the A's, and then you're not affecting the B's anymore. So you're maintaining a stability over the front 2/3 of the wing, so it's stable. Your C's can still completely depower, but you're not deforming your B's. So the resulting thing is it keeps it crazy stable when you're completely sheeted out, but it also reduces those B's from continuing to yank on the bar. So before, the more powered up you get, the more the bar will want to go to a lower and lower angle of attack till it's killing you. This will only go to the prescribed angle, and then all you've got left are the much lighter load C line. So it's like not going to keep yanking on you.
So the first bar was about 12 inches or so. I mean, I see them hanging in my garage all the time, but it was somewhere around there. So how much did you reduce the size on this new bar? And then is that the same setup is applied to all three, right? It's the same setup.
Yes. The bar itself, the yoke and everything, and the bridle lines and everything vary specifically by model and by size, but the bar itself is uniform across. Yeah, and I think on the original Maliko, I think 12 inches is about right. I don't know what that is in centimeters. The new one, I don't know off the top of my head, but I'd say it's maybe like a third shorter.
Wow.
Wow, that's awesome. I mean, that makes a big difference for pack away
That's
and
the
just
thing.
efficiency out there, and also totally the sweet spot, right? Like you don't have to worry about where your hands are traveling on the bar as much.
Yeah, and the pack away, the pack away isn't why I did it. The length actually was dictated by, because now with this yoke, it's influencing the travel and the effect on the Bs. So now the total length of the bars is the distance between the A's and the C's. And so how much do you want those C's to go out? And that sort of dictates, along with the length of the yoke, how much distance I wanted between the two. So that's what encouraged the shorter bar length. But the effect on stow is like night and day. Among other things, like the fit in the pouch, it's changed the way I'll bring it in, how I'll wrap things up. It's like a single fistful now that just chunk goes away in one motion in the pack. And then when I slide my hand in,
I've got to change all my technique, huh?
Yeah, I got to put a new video, man.
Yeah.
Well, all right. So then we've got I'm assuming what it looks like on your website is that the Ka is your mid aspect kind of, and then the Kanaha is your higher aspect, more upwind focused sail, correct? Or did I reverse those?
No, well, yeah, I got tripped up on. I'd call the Kanaha mid, like to go truly high aspect and full on Ricky Racer style. It's not, I'm sure brands are going to like go for crazy super high panel count, long lines, double skinned race machines, and I think that'll be awesome. That's not my deal, but I'm excited for that to be a category. I think it'll like smoke in San Francisco and places with race scenes. Super cool. The Kanaha is more mid, I'd call medium to medium high, and the both the Maliko and the Ka'a share sort of a medium low aspect ratio.
Yeah, I really meant in the context of the three. Yeah. So what are you riding?
I'm trying to think if there's few exceptions to me riding the Ka'a all the time. And I fully expected that once it was available to more riders, that the Ka'a would be the hands down Maui favorite. What's been a bit of a surprise to me is that the Kanaha has gotten a lot more love than I expected, even in the surf scene. And, some of the expressions coming out are just hilarious to me. They're like, oh, it's the wing killer, or, like, oh, it just sucks me upwind. And like, why am I upwind of the reef? I didn't want to get here, but they're like, you get a taste of one tack back to the peak, and they're like, you're not giving that up. I'm like, yeah, but what about, the difference for me is on the Kanaha, I think it's primarily just its aspect ratio and where it flies in the window as a result. But to go into a transition, like if you see a bump or a wave you're going to turn on and you just do it immediately, you'll outfly it, you'll outrun it, you'll drop it out of the sky. Where the Ka'a is just going to stay right there with you. You don't plan, you don't need to think ahead. It's just got crazy drift. The line tension's always there, and that's why it's my favorite. And I'm surprised when people are like, "Oh no!" I'm like, "Yeah, well, when you experience that on the Kanaha, you're going to be like, maybe I should have gotten a Kanaha." Like, no, we've already felt it. That's totally worth the trade-off. You just ease off the gas pedal, plan for your turn before you do it, but that upwind power. So, the Ka'a is my favorite just for that response. Yeah, on which one?
Yeah, I'm sold. I mean, the Ka'a, because no planning, it's really forgiving. These are all the things I need in my quiver. So
I still think I made the right choice.
we'll see.
And it's cool that you can get surprised by something that you design and you have for, you see for different things, and you're like, oh, this is the use case, or this is the use case. Like the beginning when I talked to you, you're like, it was for riding waves and everyone was using it for downwinding. And then I assume that got you in more into downwinding.
Without a doubt.
The Parawing.
Yeah, because I mean, my downwinding, not paying my dues with a paddle, my downwinding being limited to going with an inflatable wing, I didn't get hooked on it. Like oh, I can downwind, but what's the big point? Like until I put something away and had to get into zone and connect and flow and do the thing and suck and learn. that's when downwinding became a thing for me. Like, no, now I get it.
Yeah. Somebody had a question that, how is it possible that you kept the V1, the Maliko, a secret until launch? Like, how is it, like, being on Maui, flying around all these prototypes, like, where are you hiding? Like, where are you? Or everyone knows, they're like, if you post a picture of Greg, he's coming after you.
It's not that far for sure. I think I was talking to somebody and I don't immediately remember who it was. I'm like, oh, but you saw me riding some prototypes and that it wasn't a secret. And they're like, yeah, we saw you doing it, but it didn't look good. It wasn't interesting. I wasn't going to do it.
Isn't that the story of all the foil sports? You first see them, it's like, that looks horrible. Why would I ever want to go winging? Did you see that? I'm out of my kite and I'm watching the winger just getting flogged. You're like, I'm not doing that. It looks terrible. I'm sure they looked at you the same way. There's this guy out there with a trash bag. Like, what is he doing?
Yeah. So it's not like I was like, oh, Mr. Top Secret. I think like longer lines and line tangles and like the inspiration wasn't there.
They just thought it looked so bad. They're like, no way this is ever going to work. I'm not going to share this with anyone. I don't want to do that to Greg. He's a good kiter and a good winger. I don't want to embarrass him,
That's funny.
That's great.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
So kind of come full circle though, because I do think there's a lot of, with you launching the 3 new products, and it really helped kind of explaining where you were with the Maliko 2. Maybe like dig in a little bit more on like, one of the big things is that line length, obviously being super short on the Ka'a, and you kind of talked a little bit about that. Is that pretty similar between the two? What are the big differences between those other 2 models?
Yeah, so the Ka'a and the Kanaha are really close in performance. I'd be perfectly happy on either. It's almost a subtlety. The Maliko 2 is the outlier, being really in a different direction, not at all focused on upwind riding or stability or this or that, but just trying to serve that downwind specific thing. And like I'd said earlier, like even specifically single stow advanced downwind people, when I downwind, I still ride the Ka'a. I'll size up a little bit from what I would on a Maliko 2 to get that power out of a shorter line wing. So the Ka'a and the Kanaha, the Ka'a has slightly shorter lines, but not a ton. That's in part for supporting the slightly higher aspect ratio of the Kanaha. So there's some resulting differences in line length that suit those different design differences. But they're both shorter than the original Maliko by a healthy amount. I mentioned a yoke and a stability and this and that. If your question was the differences between the two, I think what I mentioned earlier in terms of, what's your performance priority, that squeaking out a little bit more upwind ability, and even that, I'll have a session with Kanaha. I'll be like, oh yeah, this totally nails the target in terms of balancing strong upwind versus not going to crazy longer lines, still making it quick to retract. Again, a question of single stow versus multi-stow. Long lines definitely have a place in terms of power. It dulls the steering, it slows the deploy as well as the packing up. So everything's sort of a balancing act of what are your performance priorities. But that upwind strength of the Kanaha, I'll switch over and I'll have a session on Ka'a and I'll be like, gosh, this is so damn good upwind. Is it really not as good? So it's not like oh, you have to make a big decision on, well, I'm still an upwind downwind rider. The kaha is going to suck for me because that's just a wave riding tool. Like, not the case at all. So they're really quite similar. And one of the real
same kind of like leading edge, like shape and structure.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. One thing, thinking about the shorter lines and the stability focus of both of those and how similar they are reminded me, like, one of the really cool things that came out of focusing heavily on something like stability is it opened up riding more and more lit, which opened up revisiting smaller boards. Because when the original Maliko launched last year, pretty immediately people were like, oh, the reason that's interesting to me is going down to a smaller board. And I was like, oh, I hope that doesn't go too far too quick, because all my development was on a pretty efficient board. I was just trying to make the thing work as good as it could. And I didn't really give time or focus to expanding that into smaller boards. And that wasn't a focus following that. It just kind of happened as a result of testing it into more and more wind. So, but it's cool that we're in a place now where the performance well and truly makes possible riding smaller boards. It's still a huge trade-off in terms of range. Like if you look at a downwind application, if you're going to head out to sea, having a big board that you can paddle in, multiple safety considerations, and that small boards, like the wind drops, you're not getting a water start off. There's a million things to take into your calculation of what's the right choice of equipment. But if you just look at, well, I can, like, take a place like Baja, for example, you're not that far from shore, to now be able to ride a wing that's going to be stable, to ride lit and be able to go on a tiny little potato chip for your downwind run, I feel like people are going to go pretty bananas. Like Gorge, another amazing example. The bumps are so insane, so stacked up, so steep, so close to shore. I can't wait to see how this influences board choice this summer.
Yeah, totally. I'm actually like working on a smaller board for the summer there, which will be exciting to be on something even shorter than what we've been riding. We're both on a 60 liter right now, or like 55, 60 liter, that KT Super K, and then I got a Frank board I've been riding. Yeah, that was the big appeal. I mean, jumping from an 8-foot or a 9-footer, down to a 5.5, that was just such a game changer.
Yeah. Yeah, and actually, so before I totally...
What's the point of diminishing returns on that, too, where it gets too small,
Yeah, so I'll circle back to that. But the one before I forget, an important thing for me that seems like a bit of a contradiction, and I don't know if I do a very good job of explaining it in the product presentation on the website, at least, because people are like, oh, the Maliko 2, more power. Great. If I'm going to ride a 30-liter board, I want more power, right? That power is more on the low end. Like more, I'm riding a mid-length or a bigger board, and I want to ride a smaller size wing. When you get down below 50 liters, it's more about stability and control. You're upsizing a size or 2 or 3. You got a lot of horsepower there. And so for sure, both of the shorter line options, either Kaha or Kanaha, are a far better choice for pushing to that extreme small board size. And to your question of like, where's that trade-off? Like for me, still my mid-length board is a 6-foot. 90 liters. It's got extra volume packed in it, and it's just a super early takeoff, and I love that. For me, the trade-off for a smaller board isn't really there. Coming from years and years of kite foiling on itty-bitty little boards, I'm not chasing the small board side anymore, but that could change in a heartbeat, because for sure when I started playing with it and spent a couple sessions on small stuff, I went back to my big board and I'm like, oh, is it broken? I can't even pump this thing. It feels wrong. So I'm like, no. I don't want to let that pollute my experience. I don't know.
So when you're talking about power on the sail, sorry, Dylan, power on the sail, like, okay, so what is our power loss we get if we go from the Kaha to the Kanaha, or vice versa, right? Because you were saying you'd size. So say you're on a 4 meter on the Kaha. Is that kind of is that like the equivalent of like a 4.5 meter in the Kanaha? Because we're always trading off, the power we're going to get for that takeoff.
Yeah. The difference between the Kaha and Kanaha is super subtle. Like it's a tenth of a meter or 2/10 of a meter difference. It's super small. It's really more between either of those two and a Maliko 2. Maliko 2 is where is the big difference. And I mean, the Maliko 2 is such an outlier from those other two. One of the things about its longer line length is, unlike the original Maliko and both Ka'a and Kanaha, where the size and span of the wing has a proportional relationship with the bridle line length, I threw that out the window for the Maliko 2. So the lower bridle cascade on the Maliko 2, that length is shared across all the sizes from the 5.3 to the 2.2. So so it makes not much difference on the 5.3. In light winds, I can't, the tension's so small, like I can't magically create more power there. But on the high wind side, on such an itty bitty little wing, the 2.2 feels like it's a mile away up in the sky. It's still slightly short because the upper cascade does follow the chord length of the wing, and it does scale. But I feel like I'm kite surfing. It feels so far away, even though it's not. But it's got so much power generation in a small size that the 2.2 low end bears no resemblance to like the 2.3 Ka'a, for example. So they're really far apart. I am finishing up trying to crunch some data to present these wind range differences and get that up on the site in the next day or two, because it's pretty.
So if we had the Gen 1, the 4 meter Maliko 1, where does that sit? That 4 meter, is that pretty equivalent to like a 4 meter Ka'a? Or should just us, for folks who are ordering, like where do they need to be thinking these size ranges sit from a power standpoint if they've had the version 1?
Well, I assume that the range now, you can go a little bit higher. Like you've got a little bit more top end in these Parawings now.
World's more out the top end. So that's sort of a no-brainer. The low end's
what's getting you out of the water, right? So that's what we're all worried about.
Right. And so the low end is tricky to describe accurately, that, because people have different experiences and feel things in different ways. Like if you look at it from a pure lift generation sense in terms of like the projected area of the wing and its profile shape and the line length, things that would affect power in a theoretical sense, you could say, oh, they're kind of similar. The bigger difference, though, in the low end range is having the A, B, and C lines all attached to the bar on the original Maliko, giving the rider sort of infinite control over angle of attack changes is nice in some regards. There's a place for that. The downside, there are downsides as well, and one of them being sort of like that you can pilot it in any way also means you have to pilot it in a certain way to get optimal power delivery in that. That's sort of the difference with the second generation, in that there's so much of a bigger sweet spot in terms of flying it for optimal power delivery. So the new ones almost have sort of like this autopilot like experience with them, that there's some pull there. So how people are what words they're gonna attach to that is yet to be seen. Like for sure some people are gonna say, oh, they're more powerful. Whether or not they are in a truly more powerful, or, oh, actually I'm just getting the power. I feel the power. It's something steady. I can lean against. It's there. Better. Right. Yeah, it doesn't require as precise a piloting. So I think for most people, they're going to say it's got a better low end along with that top end. But that seems like, oh, sure, everybody that launches a new product says, oh, you get X% more. It's slices, it's dices, it's better in every way. But
but does it, Greg?
But in this case, it does.
Of course, Greg's going to say that.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I don't want to.
So the answer is buy all three. I think that's what he's trying to line up. He's like, well, really, you just need to buy all three.
There's like 8 of them.
Yeah, but I'm such the anti-salesperson. I definitely have conversations. Like anytime people email, like most of the emails don't come directly to me anymore. But if there's like a technical question, it gets forwarded over, and I'm still thrilled to answer directly. And oftentimes I'm all like, oh, you know what? You're set. Just get a 3.6 Ka'a. It's going to cover you close to what you got in your 4. It's going to give you plenty as high as what you got to 2.9. You don't need 2 anymore. You're set. So, so there's that.
All right, did everybody hear that?
Yes. Well, actually, the other thing I'll mention in underselling the product is the Kanaha is closest probably in use case to the original Maliko, which I can break down if that's not immediately clear. But that being the case, the biggest gap in range that people communicated to me, and that I felt myself as well, is between the 2.9 and the 1.8. More so than the other sizes where there was some overlap in range and no real gap. People were like, oh man, I'm completely lit up on my 2.9 and I can barely go still on my 1.8. You know, where's the in-betweener? So the 2.3 meter size in the Ka'a was the anchor for building the sizing in that size range. Because I wanted, like, you know, people don't want to switch out their whole quiver, you know, there's that fill-in size that you can just plug into your original Maliko quiver. For people that have had that need.
And what's like your wind speed for that you need to take that 2.3 out?
And anytime I get those questions, I just pop up that data that I'm crunching now that I have yet to put on the site to answer concisely. So what I'm going to say now, we won't know if this will match up, but on a 2.3, I'm going to say 3 miles an hour. I'm pulling that out. And that's me.
Awesome. That's amazing.
On a 90 liter board, you know, I ride that because I want to get up. You know, like you said, like it's, you know, this is still a form of sailing. It can be nice. Like for me, I enjoy this most when I'm riding with a nice amount of power. I don't want to be right at the bottom where it's like, oh man, the wind just dropped. If I fall off foil, I'm not going to be able to get back up. I don't want to like have to ride that careful. I want to be able to fall and go right again. So I want a little money in the bank there in terms of power range. I like just riding with a light feel. So that's my low end on a 2.3. Now, if I'm doing an upwinder or downwinder, I'll for sure size a full size up because, you know, I want to be in the upper half of my comfortable power range to really grind upwind. Which brings up the whole topic of harnesses or not, and that was also an area where I spent a lot of work and introduced some products that were made the difference for me being interested in having a harness at all in my riding or not.
So you were harnessing in when you ride?
If I'm doing an upwind downwinder, you know, for surf riding, for downwinding, no, there's, you know, not worth the trade off for me. But if I'm gonna travel somewhere, I'm gonna choose one size bigger and I'm gonna hook in and go. And but the problem with that in the past was, you know, I don't want some big clunky thing on my bar for sure. You know, I don't want something that's going to tangle up in the lines when I do stow. Like all that stuff were deal breakers for me in using a harness. So I have for a long time been chipping away at like, well, how do we make something that does work, that makes it an option? And so it's such a crazy simple solution to that I can't believe it took me so long to be like, simple solution, but just put a little gate on your harness hook, so your lines don't get snagged in there. Like that's super easy to do. It's like not some earth-shattering invention. Like there's hooks from like kite surfing with like devices to keep your chicken loop from falling out. But why hasn't Parawing had something so we don't hook things in? Like, oh, okay, easy. So that made a difference that I can have a mini little hook on my belt at all times, so it's there if I want it or not. And I made a couple of different harness line designs that I can easily put them on if I want it, easy take them off, throw them in my pocket so they're out of my way. I've got a naked bar for all the rest of the riding.
Well, no one's done it because it's only been around for 9 months, and we're all trying to play catch up. we're all just trying to figure out what Parawing we want. We don't need to accessorize yet. Right? That's just how it's been. Have you played around with a lot of the different Parawings on the market? Have you gotten your hands on some, or have some influenced you in any way, or you're just staying on your own path?
It's a mix, for sure. Like by no means do I have the blinders on. A lot of the stuff I see, like everybody else, I see it online. first, and
Mhm.
and then when it creeps up and you see it in person, sometimes you're like, oh, I got to ride that, I got to check that out. Other times you're like, clearly I don't need to ride that one. So it's a mix. I'll give a shout out to
P1, baby.
I'll give a shout out to Flow as a brand. From my seat, and this is just my seat. Like, riders that aren't wearing a brand hat and this and that. But for like the job I do for Board Riding Maui, like it's a bummer to see products rush to market if they're not moving the needle forward, if they're not doing something better, if they're not progressing it. Then I'm like, maybe somebody's going to get that thing and be turned off to the whole category, this whole new riding category, because maybe that didn't work so great. And I don't feel like that serves anybody. Um, but if there's something that progresses things along, it's like, well done. And in that category, I feel like Flow did a good job of bringing a product that pushed the stability thing forward, and was for sure like, okay, I'm moving in the right direction. See what they did and how it's being received. So there's an example of like, yes. And I think other designers are out there doing things and they're scratching their head, and that cool things will come. I don't think anybody's knocked it out of the park yet, myself included. Like, I'm continually completely dissatisfied with my gear. Like, the only reason there's a new product coming out ever, like, I'm always prototyping, always developing, never happy. But when I get to a place where I ride the product I'm currently offering and I'm like, that sucks. Like, I don't want anybody to get that anymore. That's the push to be like, okay, well, I've got to roll out what I'm riding now, even though, like, I'm still working. So that's just my side of things.
We both we both ordered the flows, so obviously like a big shift in stability and upwind riding. I think one of the things I noticed with the flow, obviously the construction's awesome, and even with some of the other Parawings, we've gotten our hands on a bunch of them, is like one of the things is the fabric weight. It feels like your BRM is just lighter. There's just a suppleness to the fabric and how it handles in your hand when you're folding it up and packing. It just is like really easy to use. Is that, I mean, I'm assuming that's a conscious choice, and you want to talk a little bit about maybe the fabrics they're using versus the fabrics you're using, and why you chose the fabrics you did.
Excellent question. Excellent points. I don't want to give away too much
I love having Walt here. I'm just sitting here enjoying the show.
What am I, chopped liver?
Yeah, I'm just like, I got nothing after that. Fabric, yes, please.
Yeah. So I don't want to give away too much of the secret sauce to dive deep, but I will tease along the question to say there are some subtleties beyond material choices that make such an effect on performance, pack size, different things, stuff that, like, I'm like, oh no, that looks great for sure, that's the road forward, and then I prototype and I'm all like, oh, I didn't see that coming. Like, now this thing's a mess in my hands. On the flip side, there are things that can improve, that do improve pack size, and that have trade-offs in other areas. So, like, one of those being the bridle lines. Like, I've continued to use the sleeve lines for a number of reasons, even though, like, depending on the design of the Parawing, there can be a lot of intersections of lines and bulk as a result. And so you can go to lines that can be sliced instead of folded over and stitched, that are way more streamlined and compact and pack away to nothing. There's all kinds of beautiful advantages to them, but the consistency in line length goes out the window. So you don't have like a uniform performing product. So, like, there's stuff that, I don't know, seems like a good idea. Intentional choices in why the product is the way it is.
Awesome.
How many prototypes do you go through? Because obviously you said that you're not really prototyping to make maybe the next product. You're just continuously trying to evolve it until you feel like there's something there? Is there a certain number that you're like, yeah, 250 of these and it's not getting better? Or, you know, does it happen? Are there a lot of little subtleties that make a big difference and you're like, oh wow, that really didn't work and that was not a good direction? And like little things that you feel a huge improvement on that could happen from one sale to the next?
Yeah, so to the second part of that question, are there's some areas of its design that are not crazy sensitive, and there's some that are like a millimeter in the wrong direction, and it goes from being the best thing ever to the worst thing ever. I didn't even really think about it in this terms for a long time now, but making that how similar the Ka'a and Kanaha are in performance, even though they have some design differences and performance differences. At any rate, to working on the two of them in parallel definitely resulted in a huge net better end performance for both of them, because I'd be working on one, I'm like, oh man, the Kanaha's smoking it. I don't even want to make that lower aspect one. It sucks. And I'll work over here. I'm like, okay, I got it working good. Oh, it's probably as good now. And I'll go back to this one. I'm like, oh no, wait, that one sucks. And I got to get it up to speed where that one was. And they were like drag racing the whole time. And it really helped the process. Just kind of a cool aside. To the point of endless prototyping, you know, when you said that, that was my situation with the inflatable wings. You know, when my last chapter in designing, the last chapter for now, who knows what happens in the future, but at this point in time, my last chapter in making inflatable wings, it was prototyping Olympics. I never got to a place where I'm like, I'm anywhere near satisfied. And along with some other factors going, you know, some supply chain issues and this and that I had competing side projects going on that got slid to a front burner when I had some time come up. And, but I was going nowhere with those. On the Parawings so far, I definitely have some big full step backwards where I'm like, whoa, I've got this crazy idea and this is totally going to pan out. Some wicked cool different things. Let me try some crazy high aspect stuff that have just been like, oh man, these completely suck. So I don't know. Exploring. That's the fun of it.
Yeah, that's super cool. I totally get it when because I was flying 3 different wings on the beach, Parawings the other day, and they've, you know, you're like everyone, your hands in front of the middle lines, and you're trying to figure out like which one's more powerful or where the feel is, and you're like, okay, is this where the power is, or is this where the power is? And you're trying to navigate like tensioning up the back, but not too much so that it stalls, and getting the leading edge right. So I'm just trying to think about like what you're saying with the bar and the yoke and how that even things out. It just makes things a lot more subtle. And I don't know, I wish I had it yesterday, because it would have been it would have been great to be able to fly it. But I'm so stoked that it arrives tomorrow, because it makes a lot of sense, you know. And I know how to fly a wing and a kite, and for some people it's not so easy, right? So making it as easy as possible, you know, which feels like, you know, you're on that design path. It's really cool. So hopefully more people get into the sport and find parawinging to be as easy as possible, right?
Yeah, thanks.
Well, that totally seems like when you were designing for that, you know, getting that stability out of the yoke and everything. Because when I think about all the Parawings we've used, I mean, most of the time you're like quickly all the way to the top of the bar and fully loading the front edge to like keep it at the edge of the window. And so you kind of lose all your ability to control, because you're literally just riding those front lines so hard that you've lost your ability to like find the sweet spot, because you've had to like shove all the way into it to just get it powered up. So, you know, if that's in the middle of the bar all of a sudden, and now you have a bigger range where you can control it. I mean, that seems like that's going to create a lot more, like you're saying, Dylan, stability, ease of entry for new riders and people kind of getting into the sport, because it shouldn't be as hard as it is, right? Whenever we start these things, the Gen 1 is always so challenging and difficult. 3 versions later, when we think of the journey with winging, it's like you look back to these original wings we were riding and they're just garbage, right? And it's amazing how much we've come. So at V2, I mean, who knows where you take it next, right? Maybe these things will just fly hands free. They're just gonna fly for us on my fart board.
Let's hope not.
I didn't expect it to be the case that there was so much opportunity for change. After the fact, I look at it now and I'm like, oh, it makes perfect sense. Like over a decade ago, I designed and launched a kite for in a kite world just before foiling came on the scene, and it was this crazy high D power kite, like which was weird to describe because very commonly in the kite world, then probably still now, people talk about deep power, and I'm like, whoa, this thing, I made it, and I knew I wanted it to depower. I did some stuff, and it depowers in a completely different way. Like it needs a new word for people to quite get. Like, no, I'm not talking about depower you're used to hearing about. This like really, really depowers. And while that was important to me and something super interesting, over the years and refining the product, hydrofoiling comes on the scene and different, that evolved. And the point I'm getting to is that actually keeping a certain amount of power on was a step forward in its performance. Like, okay, like so that it's not always pulling the bar away from you, that there is some linear decrease to the amount of the bar travel wanting to get yanked away from you. And that, with that lighter feel, I go and I do some transitions and stuff like that, and I can still have some steering control independent of power control. And just, the point being, like, a little bit of power kept on has some advantages. And now having that in a Parawing, that it's just like, oh, like, why did this not occur? Like in kiting, we have all these built-in mechanisms to control it. You've got a stopper on your bar's travel. You've got limits on the angle of attack changes on your kites. Like when I designed the first Parawing, I just, in such a kind of crude way, attached the 3 bridles, front, rear, and back to the bar. And there was no guardrails on how the thing's going to fly. So I feel like we're just starting, obviously different brands have some razzle dazzle going on. Things are moving around this and that. Mm-hmm. I haven't really sat down and scratched my head deep on it, but a lot of stuff I look at, I'm like, it's not intuitive to me. Like, what is that doing really? Like, how's that different? So maybe I'm just completely missing it. And certainly I think people are going to look at what I've done and been like, dude, it's 2 strings. Like, there's nothing going on there, understand it or not. Like, I don't know, it's working perfect. So that's why, that's what it's doing. But I feel like we're just scratching the surface for the future.
Yeah. Did you try any like trim straps and lines to see if like you make them the centers longer, the beads longer or shorter, if that does anything to it, or it's just, I'm going too deep?
No, that's perfectly on point. And that's sort of one of the areas of like a millimeter makes it from amazing to totally sucks. So the trim is so fine. And like that yoke is probably the area of needing the most precise exacting within a millimeter kind of thing. So that's controlled also by the distance from the A's and the C's where they are on the bar. Like that changes. That's going to change the length of the yoke, and like everything goes out the window. So right now it's far too sensitive to add trim, but yes, that's the future. Like having something that you can, like, I still have some kites, and there's 2 different locations on the kite's bridles where you can change it here to do this or change it to do there somewhere else to do something else. And that what they do kind of overlaps. So you use them sort of in conjunction, but they're sort of independent. And I think most people look at it and they're all like, so I do what to what? Like, just give it to me the way it works well. And the sensitivity on the tuning of the bridling on the Parawing is like that on steroids. Like, anyway.
Yeah. Did you, when you were testing that length for the yoke, did you have it on a pulley system, or you had fixed lengths and you had to test them over and over and over?
But it started with moving parts, because I'm like, I don't know, like a moving slider part on your harness connection, and on, the first generation kites with bridled leading edges, had pulleys all over the place, and moved toward fixed. Like there's just such a difference in like direct input. You do X and the wing responds Y, and there's no like slop of things moving around. But even despite knowing that, I'm like, oh, sure, of course the bees are going to be on a slider. I'm like, whoa, like there's craziness going on here. Let me slow this. Let me put stoppers on it. Oh, that's better. Oh, wait, it's closer. Oh, wait, actually, there's a sweet spot. So, but then there, I would do endless amounts of like, oh, the front half of the yoke a little bit longer, that one a little bit shorter. Oh no, actually, it needs to be here, and like, yeah, just crazy sensitive.
Are you the only one that's designing these, or who's helping you?
For Board Riding Maui, I design all the stuff. I have, first and foremost would be my brother in terms of testing. Like it's invaluable to be able to swap on the water, like to even like come in and make a switch and go out and ride something else. There's a lot lost. Like the wind changed a little bit. My impression, like you've got to be able to back and forth. I mean, Parawings a joke easy for development in comparison. Like I've made specialty belts with like holsters so I can have like a gazillion different Parawings on my body and go out and like switch and switch and switch and switch and land it, tune it, fly it again. Like it's a silly process. But yeah, my brother's super
awesome.
involved, and at like Parawing here is kind of blown up, and so more and more people are coming into the fold and having like awesome ideas and like, oh, what if you do this? What if you do that? And I feel like the whole like, oh no, the Kanaha isn't an upwind downwind thing. That's my total wave tool. Like, oh, well, that's got me thinking. So yeah.
Yeah, that's cool that the community can be around and you can receive so much feedback, and we all just want to help out to make a better product so that we can ride the best thing, It's like, that's super cool that you've got that. I mean, Parawings blowing up everywhere. Like over here, there's a big crew and people are frothing on it. We just can't get enough. So, everyone's just trying to figure out what the best one is. No one wants to commit. They're all like scared. They're like, oh, you test the waters. You test it, So it's like, it's kind of been like that. So a couple of us have, had to dive in deep to, figure it all out. But that's just the fun of it. It's not that every single one is doing the job, right? If we want to, nitpick and, feel out these little nuances, and then that's very personal. So it's cool that you've got, a smorgasbord of Parawings for us, so we can pick and fine tune what we want to do with it, and everyone's going to have their choice, right? And then I'm sure on the end you're going to be surprised who's riding what and why.
Yeah, but I think you bring up like the core point there, which is like, what's the fundamental of this? Like you get to drop into a run or a wave and put it away. You're not like dragging something with you. You're like, this is the dream. Like, who cares what you're riding? Like, so does like the point is the point, which is you get to foil hands free. So boom.
Yeah, super cool, man.
Yeah, it's magic.
So you want to add anything? You want to try to sell some Parawings here before we let you go?
No,
exactly.
no.
Last question. What Parawing should I order?
No, he said it.
Yeah, no.
Did he say it?
No.
I might need him to say it again.
No. At one point when he was talking, I was like, "Don't make me regret my decision, Greg."
No, I'm gonna double down on the point of get any Parawing you want. Like it's like the people sitting on the sidelines and going, oh, I don't know. Like for me, that's the hard one to figure out. Like this is exactly what I've wanted to do for so long. Like wow, like I wouldn't be able to wait a second. Like the goal of foil surfing a wave towed in by some wind device and then ditching it, like that was a long time coming for me personally. So it's just like I've arrived. Like how much better it can be, sure, let's make it great, but we've already arrived. Like riding the wave is the thing.
Yeah, that's super well said. I mean, if anybody's just
ordering now,
just buy one.
That's hilarious. Thank you.
Yeah, He's been waiting. He's like, tell me which one to buy.
Oh, I
was
love buying gear.
Yeah. Walt's really good at it. Yeah, that's really well said. And if anybody's sitting on the sidelines, maybe there is no best one. Maybe you're just no good at it. So pick up a Parawing and just start having at it, because the gear is only going to get better. And, we haven't struggled through anything. Like, we've just been trying out all these different products, and one might be better for me than for somebody else. And we've had split decisions between all of us and our friends on what disciplines we're doing. So just go and get a Parawing and get on foil and pack it away and feel the freedom. It's by far, I love it. It's my favorite thing to do. I just love it, especially because of the experimentation of it and all these new products and trying to figure out these nuances. It's just been super fun for me to have this new, this new sport, essentially, right? So thanks, Greg, for helping us, and bringing good products and keeping the evolution going and being there in Maui and having everybody help influence this and take it to different levels. So super stoked.
Hey, thank you and everybody that, makes it possible. Super appreciate it.
Right on.
All right, cheers.
Thank you, guys. Don't leave.